Good afternoon, everyone, and to the training team of PNA for inviting me to share some insights on this brown bag session. Our agenda for today, for this brown bag session, is all about public Wi-Fi. It's dangerous when we use public Wi-Fis in coffee shops, airports, malls, and other places. Also, we'll give some examples and some safety tips on using public Wi-Fi and added and we have an added bonus, some tips on securing your access points, routers at home or in the office. Before we go directly to our topic, let's first look at some surveys. In 2022, the Philippines was ranked as the 30th country that has been breached. If we look at the data of the National Privacy Commission and the DICT, the data breaches isn't matching. In 2023, the Global Anti-Scam Alliance, Look, did a survey, and the Philippines topped that survey. So it's not just traffic that we are number one, but online scams as well. The explosion in online shopping has created a lucrative market for scammers, and the lack of cyber crime awareness is aggravating that problem in the country, where people spend an average of 10 hours a day online by some estimate. Although Filipinos are considered very connected and digitally wired, we do not have that adequate digital literacy skill. The survey found that Filipinos were easy prey for scammers because they respond too quickly to sellers. 80% of that scam are found in Facebook and TikTok. And we are the number one globally in social media. Police data shows also that Filipinos collectively lost more than $2.8 million in shopping scams alone during the first 9 months of 2023. And that number is rising by the minute. As we celebrate the holidays like the Lenten season for next week, there are numerous travel scams happening. In cybersecurity, we have what we call a CIA triad, as you can see on the screen. CIA stands for confidentiality, integrity, and availability. But we normally extend this concept to non-repudiation, authentication, and authorization. The whole concept of this triad is what we call information assurance principles. And IA act as an enabler for any organization's security activities to protect and defend its network from security attacks. As I've mentioned on previous sessions, the goal of any organization is to sustain its business and to protect its asset, may it be people, technology, facilities, or data. IA facilitates the adoption of appropriate countermeasures and response actions upon a threat alert or detection. Therefore, network operators must use IA principles to identify data that is sensitive and to counter events that may have security implications for the network. IA principles assist them in identifying network security vulnerabilities, monitoring the network or for any intrusion attempts for malicious activity, and defending the network by mitigating vulnerabilities. Network defense activities should address the following IA principles to achieve defense in depth. Confidentiality. Confidentiality permits only authorized users to access, use, or copy information. Authentication is crucial for confidentiality. If an unauthorized user accesses protected information, it implies that a breach of confidentiality has occurred. Integrity, on the other hand, protects the data and does not allow modifications. deletion, or corruption of data without proper authorization. This information assurance principle also relies on the authentication to function properly. Availability is the process of protecting information systems or networks that store sensitive data to make them available for the end users whenever they request access. Non-repudiation is a service that validates the integrity of a digital signature's transmission, starting from where it originated to where it arrived. Non-repudiation grants access to protected information by validating that the digital signature is from the intended party, while authentication is the process of authorizing the users with the credentials provided by comparing them to those in a database of authorized users on an authentication server to grant access to the network. It guarantees that the files or data passing through the network is safe. The concept of routers or Wi-Fi's are all came from telephones of the inventor, which is Alexander Graham Bell. When we were kids in the province, we would do our walkie-talkies on these tin cans. So these tin cans are not just bilateral in nature, but we can also create even multiple tin cans that will serve as phones or maybe walkie-talkies. So we can do that in multiple tin cans, like for example, 3 or 4 or 5 tin cans at the same time, and it would serve as like maybe like a party line during those days. The concept of telephones and smartphones are also like this tin cans, and Wi-Fi access points has extended this concept. Let's look first at the history of telephones, ARPANET, and Wi-Fi networks. So this is like the evolution of the wireless technology that we can see nowadays. So uh, telephones, so the history of telephones dates back in the 19th century with Alexander Graham Bell, as mentioned earlier. Uh, this is the invention. This invention was, I think, was in the 1800s, 1870s, maybe. Initially, telephones were wired devices connecting users through network of physical cables. And over time, technology evolved, leading to the development of cordless phones and eventually mobile phones. So ARPANET was created in the United States Department of Defense Advanced Research and Projects Agency, which is called ARPA. Was This was the precursor to the internet. It was developed in the late 1960s, and it was the first network to use TCP/IP protocols, laying the foundation for today's internet. While internet, as we know, just celebrated their 30th year anniversary this year. And Wi-Fi, on the other hand, so Wi-Fi networks are short for wireless fidelity. So it emerged in the late 1990s as a wireless alternative to wired networks. So it allows devices to connect to the internet and communicate with each other wirelessly using radio waves. Wi-Fi technology has since become ubiquitous, enabling wireless internet access in homes, businesses, and public spaces. In this slide, we will talk about the benefits of network security to any organization. When we talk about network security, it is crucial to any organization, irrespective of size. It safeguards systems, files, data, and personal information. and protects this from unauthorized access. In addition to ensuring protection against hacking attempts and virus attacks, network security provides the following indirect advantages and benefits. First, increased profit. Keeping computers network secure is critical for any organization. With the deployment of comprehensive network defense, the organization can prevent threats, attacks, and vulnerabilities which can otherwise cause significant loss. Thus, network security indirectly supports the bottom line of the organization in terms of profit. It also allows organizations to gain a competitive edge by providing more secure services. Two, improve productivity. Network security can also help in improving the productivity of an organization. For example, it prevents employees from spending time on unproductive activities over the internet, such as browsing Facebook or maybe adult content or gaming in during office hours. These activities can be restricted with different policies in terms of browsing techniques, consequently improving productivity. Third would be enhanced compliance. Network security helps organizations avoid penalties for lack of compliance. The real-time monitoring of data flows helps organizations enhance their compliance posture. Client confidence. The last one would be client confidence. The knowledge that an organization system and data are protected and safe enhances clients' confidence and trust in the organization. This may translate into future purchases of other service offerings from the organization. Let's do some definitions first with regards to our topic, public Wi-Fi dangers. So, uh, we'll be introducing some terminologies. Most of this, I think you know already, but we will just go with the flow in terms of defining these terms. In a wireless network, data are transmitted through electromagnetic waves, or maybe RF waves or radio frequencies, in terms of our communication path. Terms associated with wireless networks includes the following: GSM, Global System for Mobile. It is a universal system used for mobile data transmission in wireless networks worldwide. Next would be bandwidth. It describes the amount of information that may be broadcasted over a connection. Usually, bandwidth refers to the data transfer rate and is measured in bits amount of data per second, BPS. Okay. Next would be access point. So an access point, or what we call sometimes as AP, is used to connect wireless devices to a wireless or a wired network. It allows wireless communication devices to connect to our wireless network through wireless standards such as Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. It serves as a switch or a hub between a wired LAN and a wireless network. Basic Service Set Identifier, BSSID. It is the media access control. So in every computer, we have a MAC address. Uh, to, so to access the access point, okay? And then normally we configure our computers in the different organizations that we have. For example, in PNA also, your staff in systems admin or infra would be configuring this with regards to uh, to you in terms of redundancy. Okay, so that's BSID. In the ISM band here is this is a set of frequencies used by international industrials and scientific communities. These are basic ISO standards, right? And of course, the last one would be a hotspot. So I think everyone knows what's a hotspot is, no? So the wireless network environment opens up many new expansions and workflow possibilities. With the availability of wireless network, there is no need to worry when a user wants to move their PC from one office to the next, or when they want to work in a location that does not have an Ethernet port. Wireless networking is very useful in public places, including libraries, coffee shops, hotels, airports, and other establishments that offer um, wide local area network connections. The most important aspect in wireless networking is an access point through which a user can communicate with another mobile or fixed host. An access point is a device that contains radio transceivers along with a registered jack. What normally our routers have access point also in terms of our Wi-Fi routers at home. So the advantages of a wireless network, it is installation is fast and easy without the need of wiring through walls and ceilings. Easily provides connectivity in areas where it is difficult to lay cables. Next would be the network can be accessed from anywhere within the range of the access point. And public places such as airports, libraries, schools, and even coffee shops offer constant internet connections through Wi-Fi's, right? And but there are disadvantages also of a wireless network. Security may not meet expectation. The bandwidth suffers as the number of devices in the network increases. Wi-Fi upgrades may require new wireless cards and access points. And some electronic equipments can interfere with Wi-Fi networks as well. So on this slide, we'll just run through the wireless technologies that we have right now. So first, there's Wi-Fi. So in everything on this on the four types in terms of wireless technologies, these are, by the way, using electromagnetic waves, so RF technologies, right? So in Wi-Fi, it's radio waves or microwave waves to allow electronic devices to exchange data or to connect to the internet. The next one, of course, would be Bluetooth. Bluetooth, as we know, we can do with our earphones, Alexa, and other devices as well. But we're using a different technology for this in terms of connection. RFID is also using radio frequency and electromagnetic waves to transfer data from automatic identification for tracking tags attached to an object. And the last one would be WiMAX, so long distance wireless networking for high-speed internet as well. So this being used on our LTEs on our by our telcos. Let's discuss first the difference between wired and wireless network. So a wired network uh, versus a wireless network in terms of bandwidth. A wired network has high bandwidth, automatic, right? So on a wireless network, low bandwidth. On a wired network, low bandwidth in terms of variation, but in wireless networks, there's high bandwidth in terms of variation. There's low error rates also in wired networks. It is more secure. It is uh, it is also less equipment dependent. Uh, there's also symmetric connectivity, and then high powered machines, high resource machines also. In terms of delay, there's low delay or no delay with regards to our local area network. And then there's a connect in terms of operations is it's connected. We are connected by LAN. Okay. In a wireless network, it has high error rates. It is also less secure, and then more equipment dependent. It possible asymmetric connectivity, low power machines, low resource machines, and there's also a high delay in terms of the bandwidth. And of course, uh, it is disconnected in terms of operation. Before we go into the issues in Web WPA and WPA2, uh, let's first discuss some classification in terms of wireless network. So before we go to the challenges, let's first discuss this. So in terms of classification of a wireless network, this can either be an extension of a wired network in terms of your LAN, wherein, for example, you have a switch and then there would be different access points that is being extended in terms of your wireless connectivity in the office or maybe in public places. So this can be done such as like that, no? But sometimes there's also direct multiple access points lang. So when there's a modem, then there will be uh, a mesh maybe, or maybe an AP extender that would now deal with multiple access points. And of course, there would be LAN to LAN wireless network, diba? So normally we do this also in 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 an office setup, depending on the risk appetite of your infra in terms of what strategy that they will apply. And of course, there would be 4G and 5G hotspots, and then just extending that to a different AP so that you can now, uh, I think Smart has a modem right now that you can put an LTE with regards to a modem that is also an access point, then you can now share it, diba? So what is this web WPA and WPA2, and later on we'll also have WPA3. So these are types of encryption of your routers or access points. So when you do a configuration with regards to your routers at home or maybe in the office, you can see this in terms of what type of encryption do you need. Diba? So all of these are, may makikita kayo dyan sa router nyo. There's a standard which is called an 802.11i, something like that. Or maybe that's the standard 802 in terms of wireless network. So the encryption, at first they have WEP, EAP, LIP, WPA, TKIP, ano pa ba? WPA2, AES 256, and then there's WPA3. Normally, we have WPA3 already in our modern wireless uh, routers. Okay, so so WEP, this is an encryption algorithm from the IEEE 802.11 wireless network. Uh, WPA is an advanced wireless encryption protocol using TKIP and MIC to provide stronger encryption and authorization. While WPA2 is an upgrade of WPA using AES and CCMP. So these are typically security protocols for in terms of wireless data encryption. When you transmit that over the radio waves, okay. But there's also WPA3. This is a third generation Wi-Fi security protocol that uses GCMP 256. So AES 256 for encryptions for HMAC. Uh, I think this is not SHA-1 anymore. This is advanced SHA-2, I think, in terms of authentication. Okay. So let's go to the issues of this type of encryption. Okay. So issues in terms of WEP, since this is an old technology, normally we don't use it anymore in terms of configuring your routers. So in terms, if you look at these issues, this is prone to password cracking and also vulnerable for plain text attack because encryption is in plain text lang. Okay, the medyo mahina ang cipher niya. So it also lacks a centralized key management in terms of private key and public key. So we migrated to WPA and WPA2. Okay. So if you look at WPA, there's also lack of forward secrecy. And then there's a pre-shared key in terms in which is vulnerable for eavesdropping and dictionary attacks in terms of password cracking, di ba? Because normally if there is a hacker, we can use some techniques which is called a dictionary attack. Okay, in terms of brute forcing the password of any if of any router or maybe a PC. Okay, so WPA-TKIP is vulnerable to packet spoofing also. So when you do, for example, if there are some engineers here, uh, and then just doing some port scanning, may mas madali itong i-brute force. In terms of WPA2, uh, there's also uh, there's also vulnerable in terms of dictionary attacks and lacks forward secrecy as WPA. Uh, but then there's also a vulnerability of the in terms of man in the middle and DDoS attacks in terms of this type of encryption. So there's also crack vulnerabilities. So later we'll explain what crack vulnerabilities as an example. So we'll discuss that later. But technically, a crack vulnerability makes WPA2 vulnerable to packet sniffing. Okay, and then you can hijack it in terms of even just, for example, just using a different operating system, not Windows, of course, Kali Linux. So there are different tools in Kali Linux that you can do, for example, uh, monitoring, for example, the the packets using Wireshark also. Okay, in terms of the data that's being used. Okay, we'll explain a little bit more later. Let's discuss more on the risk of public Wi-Fi. I will not read the definitions listed here, but maybe we can do some scenario on sniffing and man in the middle. Spoofing is normally the next action of sniffing and man in the middle, since this is the most common risk in actions. So on sniffing, uh, let's imagine a scenario where an attacker is using Kali Linux, popular penetration testing distribution in Linux. So to conduct a sniffing attack on a public Wi-Fi network. So in this scenario, the attacker is sitting on a busy airport terminal where there are many travelers using the free public Wi-Fi. The attacker's goal is to intercept and capture sensitive information transmitted over the Wi-Fi network, such as usernames, password, and other confidential data. To accomplish this, the attackers utilizes various tools available in Kali Linux. So one of those would be Wireshark, Aircrack Nang, or NG, uh, EtherCap, DriftNet. Uh, with these tools at their disposal, the attacker can effectively sniff the public Wi-Fi network, intercepting and analyzing the data packets transmitted by unsuspecting users. This enables them to capture sensitive information, such as login credentials, credit card numbers, uh, and personal communication, posing as a significant threat to the privacy and security of individuals using the Wi-Fi network. So to protect against sniffing attacks on public Wi-Fi, users should employ encryption protocols such as HTTPS, using virtual public using VPNs to encrypt their internet traffic and avoid transmitting sensitive information over unsecured networks whenever possible. Additionally, organizations should implement strong security measures such as network segmentation and intrusion detection systems to detect and mitigate sniffing attacks in real time. So the next one would be man in the middle. So in this use case, let's consider a scenario where you are sitting in a coffee shop, enjoying a cup of coffee, and browsing the internet on your laptop using public Wi-Fi network provided by the establishment. Unknown to you, a malicious actor is present at the coffee shop, equipped with tools to execute man-in-the-middle attack. As you connect to the public Wi-Fi network, you start accessing your email account to check for new messages. However, since the public Wi-Fi network is unencrypted, the attacker is able to intercept the data packets being exchanged between your laptop and the Wi-Fi router. In this man-in-the-middle attack scenario, the attacker acts as an intermediary between your device and the Wi-Fi router, intercepting all the data you send and receive. They can then eavesdrop on your email communication, potentially capturing sensitive information such as your login credentials, personal emails, or any attachments you might be opening. Furthermore, the attacker could even alter contents of the data packets before forwarding them to their intended destination. So, for example, they could inject malicious code into the web pages you're browsing, leading you to inadvertently download the malware into your device. So, meanwhile, you remain unaware that your internet traffic is being intercepted, as everything appears to be functioning normally on your end. This is one of the dangers of using unsecured public Wi-Fi networks. It creates an opportunity for attackers to conduct man-in-the-middle attacks and compromise the privacy and security of unsuspecting users. To protect against man-in-the-middle attacks on public Wi-Fi networks, it's crucial to use secure communication protocols such as HTTPS whenever possible. Utilize a VPN to encrypt your internet traffic and avoid accessing sensitive information or logging into your account that require passwords while connected to unsecured networks. So these are real examples of Wi-Fi hacking and prevention. So example number one, as mentioned earlier on the previous slide, there's a crack attack. So in 2017, researchers discovered the key reinstallation attack, which uh, which is called crack. So vulnerability in WPA2. So which allowed attackers to intercept and decrypt Wi-Fi traffic. So prevention, updating devices and routers and security patches and using WPA3 when available. So in this example, since there is a vulnerability, but that has been patched already in WPA in terms of that encryption, uh, we are advised to use WPA3 as much as possible. If there's a WPA3 with regards to your routers, use that. Okay. And then another example would be a rogue access point. So when we talk about rogue access point, um, this is what we call an evil twin. So as mentioned earlier, there are a few examples. If you have a laptop, you can sniff, diba? Unencrypted. So the prevention there, if someone is using, maybe a noob would be using, for example, Kali Linux and start sniffing in terms of port scanning, or what will happen there is basically they can get your data in every website, in every traffic with if it's unencrypted. So, but if you are using a VPN uh, in your PC in your laptop, that will be redirected just to the VPN. Like for example, if you're using NordVPN or other VPN, for example, Cisco, AnyConnect, that will be coursed through that VPN lang, and then they cannot see it anymore. Okay. So what is a rogue access point? It's if you're, for example, the hacker is medyo, it's a medium or high sophisticated hacker already, there's what we call an evil twin. So normally they mimic that modem or that router, and then say, okay, I am the router. So that's how they mimic. They create an access point, for example, in Windows and broadcast it. Okay, it's at but the problem there is there's no internet when you broadcast it, di ba? So parang hindi siya gumagana when they connect it through that. So what normally is being done is uh, an attacker would do a DDoS on the specific router so that they can when it's now down, you connect everything to the broadcasted SSID. So that's one use case. Another use case would be there are tools like, for example, it's like a modem also that mimics the modem of and the router of the public Wi-Fi. So they can take over for that. Actually, some of them can be bought in Shopee. Mm-mm. So that's very scary also. Okay. And another example would be credential stuffing. So attackers use stolen usernames and passwords to obtain data breaches. So if you look at the public Wi-Fi, there's a research. There's someone who did this in terms of research alone. 70% of the worldwide attackers using web WPA WPA2 in terms of the public Wi-Fi, they can access it. So there's a research for that, and some people has, I think, has published it also in the dark web, so anyone can use that. Okay, so that's the problem with sometimes with research. So As a prevention, we need to use multi-factor authentication and of course regularly update your password. So some tips in terms of using Wi-Fi hotspots safely. In terms of public Wi-Fi, use encrypted connections. So whenever possible, use HTTPS in terms of your encryption. In the router also, you can configure this na everything that will be uh, done in terms of browsing will be HTTPS will be used. And when you're in public also, please use VPN. So, so everything will be encrypted in terms of the traffic. With regards, even though, for example, there's an HTTPS can be easily broken also. So if you're using, normally we use TLS 2.0, I think. Now, I'm not that updated anymore with regards to that, but you should be using TLS when doing transport mode in terms of secured sockets, no? And then, of course, avoid sensitive transactions. Refrain from accessing sensitive information such as banking or email accounts on public Wi-Fi networks. And keep software updated. So it is important that there's a patch with regards to your firmware in terms of the Wi-Fi, but network, but also on your PCs. So it is important pag kuminsan so sabi pa lang ng infra natin parang ang bagal naman ng PC natin in terms of the installation. Mostly there's a malware inside of the PC already. And then of course disable auto connect in terms of automatic Wi-Fi connections also. Okay, so we'll give you some tips on securing your routers at home and in the office. So a wireless network can be insecure if proper care has not been taken while configuring it. Um, so these are just a few tips on how to secure. Okay. So the following points should be clearly stated on your organization's wireless security policy. First, you need to identify the users who are using the network. That's important. Okay. Uh, and then next would be you have to determine whether the user is allowed to access or not. And third, there's a clearly defined who can and cannot install uh, the access points and other wireless devices in the enterprise. Text, we need to describe the type of information that users are allowed to communicate over the wireless network. And then provide limitations on APs such as location, cell size, frequency, in order to overcome the wireless security risk. And clearly define the standard security settings for wireless components. So it is important that you have an inventory as mentioned here on the first bullet, diba? So you need to have an inventory of all of your wireless devices because sometimes others are using WPA2, others are using WPA3, and others also. So, but also, you also have to centralize the implementation security measures for all wireless technology. Uh, and security awareness and training program for all of your employees as what PNA is doing also when they're doing this type of brown bag sessions, no? And then we also need to look at this 8 steps, no? So create an inventory for the wireless device, uh, placement of wireless AP and antenna. So normally dapat nasa gitna siya because para walang magkaroon ng interference. And then you disable the SSID broadcasting. So, pa and then select a strong wireless encryption mode. As much as possible, use WPA3. If WPA3 is not available, use WPA2. Okay. So that is important because you need to be everything in the router or in the AP should be encrypted. Okay. And then use HTTPS in terms of browsing. That can be configured also in the router or the AP. And then it's also important that you do your patches in terms of WPA cracking. Okay. Uh, your infra should know about this if you're doing it at home. Pwedeng just use WPA3. Okay. Para hindi complicated. Okay. So you also need to look at detecting rogue APs in terms of if in terms of the organization, and locating rogue access points, and configuring the security and wireless routers as well. Okay, so I think that's the end of the slide, and then thank you very much for having me. If you have questions, I can entertain it now. And then if dun sa mga nahiya, you can email me on this email address or just text me on this number. Normally I answer 1 to 2 days because of the work that I do. But typically I answer. So if you have questions with regards to business continuity, data privacy, InfoSec, and even privacy engineering, IT audit, I can do that and answer you on through email. Thank you very much.